Welcome to Monday Scoop. I'm Georgia Raisman, and on Monday Scoop, I have short conversations with a variety of experts on issues affecting people over age 55. Whether it's food, health, style, or entertainment, we'll explore ways to lead better and deeper lives as we get older. Hello, I'm Georgia Raisman, and I'm here today with Jane Condon, a comedian, and a female comedian, obviously, of whom there are not all that many, but Jane is among the stars of those in that firmament. And Jane has a podcast called 50 Over 50. Is that right?
Funny Over 50?
Funny Over 50. Hello. And in any case, she's a very funny person, and I'm so happy to have her with us today because what we need in this pandemic is humor. So I'm not going to ask you directly, immediately, about humor in the time of a crisis, but I'd like to start with a little bit about yourself and your background. And one thing I will tell everybody is that the quote that I like best about Jane is that I'm glad I went to Wellesley because it made me fearless. So I think being fearless is something you need if you're going to put yourself out there, as a comedian especially. So how did that happen to you? How did you get there?
Someone said to me, if you can't be confident, act confident.
Oh, that's a good
on
start.
Stage. Yeah. That's, I started out, Wellesley was a great education, but I really got my comedy education at Cardinal Spellman High School in Brockton, Mass. Codspell, as we call it.
Codspell?
Yeah. We had a Holiday Inn with a big sign, have you next a fear here. But I've sort of lost my accent. I got teased out of it, but I love it.
So Catholic school education is a good start for a comedian?
Well, I was a little upset because
nuns?
I was not voted funniest, so I was very upset by
Oh, boy.
that. I was voted most likely to succeed, but I wanted to be voted funniest. And the truth be told, I was about 9th funniest at my high school.
Is that right?
Yeah.
A lot of funny people in Brockton?
That was my comedy education, right there. And, you know, from there it just lay dormant. I tried to go straight. I was a journalist. I worked for Fortune and Life magazines. I wrote a book on Japanese women when we lived in Japan.
Yeah, you lived in Japan, which is a very serious culture,
well,
right?
It
Especially
is
for
very
women.
serious, very majime. And then I came back to the States, and I'm there like, oh my goodness, these people have a sense of humor, and there are fruits and vegetables, and I love AM radio. And I started going out on Wednesday nights to Treehouse Comedy Club, but actually my very first show was a nursery school fundraiser for our son's nursery school. And I hopped up on a Fisher-Price picnic table and I just started telling jokes.
Oh, how funny, and that worked.
A Swedish dad came up to me afterwards and said, I thought you were just a drunken housewife. And although most comedians...
He meant that in a flattering sense,
I hope so. My second show was at an Episcopalian church in Greenwich. Very patrician man came up at the end and said, you are so funny, I almost laughed out loud. So the suburbs were actually very good to me because I couldn't stay out late to go to the comedy clubs, which is the way up for most comedians. I just couldn't hang out at 1 and 2 a.m. So instead I'd go to my kids' games and there's nothing to do while you're waiting and watching. And I would just entertain everybody in the stands. I'd just try out my new material.
I know that scene. I mean, anybody who's got children knows that scene. You go to the child's game and they're playing soccer, and what can you do?
And then we all would say to each other, "Oh, by the way, your kid just scored a goal." Okay. So we all helped each other. But then I started going into the New York clubs, and I got lucky. I got some TV shows, and
and your
great.
shtick, for lack of a better word, was that you were this mom from Greenwich with these 2 boys, and everything else was okay.
That's right. Otherwise, everything's fine.
It's just very, very funny. So the humor has all sorts of functions in life, right? It has healthy functions. It has community functions. It brings us together. So how have you found developing your sense of humor and in a community like the one that you belong in, and larger communities that you have found? You connect with people.
Well, I love doing benefits and fundraisers. I've done 10 million Planned Parenthoods and breast cancer fund. I have a breast cancer fundraiser coming up. What's coming up? So Stanford Hospital is a breast cancer fundraiser, the United Way of Greenwich, which I love. And then I'll bring in my fellow comedians to entertain there.
You said you like to help other women. You help other women comedians?
Yeah. No, well, first of all, every young comedian knows that Jane will give you a ride. Jane has Diet Coke, well, I'm trying to drink more Hint now. I really love Hint, and water. I'll have snacks in my car, basically, which is all they need. And I really enjoy getting them jobs. Like when I do a job, then I try to recommend someone else behind me. And then maybe she'll recommend someone else, and then often it'll come back to me.
It's networking and helping other comedians, especially women.
Yeah. The women, we do help each other, which is great. And also you have comedy buddies. You call up.
What's a comedy buddy?
Oh, you call up to try out new jokes.
Ah.
Yeah. So it's.
And if there's silence at the other end, you know that one didn't work.
Yes, we're pretty honest with each other.
Well, thinking about family
Yep.
and how this all works into your family, how did, for example, your husband take this career of yours?
Well, I actually feel well, how would you feel if your husband were up here talking about your family? So, but I know, and I feel a little sorry for him. It was kind of a bait and switch. I was this shy, geeky girl when he married me, and then I came out of the comedy closet. I honestly don't know what happened. And then I did the nursery school fundraiser, and then I did the Episcopalian Church, and I do actually love doing theaters. That's great. I travel a lot when it's non-pandemic times.
You made that one, speaking of that, the Episcopal Church, you made that one comment that I thought was so funny about having a mixed marriage between a Catholic and a Republican.
But I have lots of, my husband was the last thing to go into my act, to be honest, because I said to the owner and manager of the comic strip in New York, Lucian, he said, Jane, we really like, you have to prove yourself to become a regular. You keep auditioning. And they said, we really like you. You're doing great things. And I'm different because I'm
Suburban
a Connecticut mom.
Right.
And I am an uptight Connecticut mom. Let's be more accurate. Okay. But he said, I'm not going to pass you at my club until you start talking about your husband in your act. And I said, but Lucian, I want to stay married. But then I came up with stuff, that he's very cute. I married up in looks. His initials are KGB, so he doesn't monogram a lot. So I do say stuff about him now.
And you talked about same-sex marriage.
Oh yeah. What's the problem? My husband and I have had the same sex for 42 years. An oldie but goodie. I think I did that one on Last Comic Standing. One of my favorite shows that I do a New Year's Eve show in Charleston every night of January 1st. It's over 1,000 people. We do song parodies. And your first question before you do any benefit or fundraiser is you should always ask, who's the audience?
Oh, yes.
Because then you tilt it a little more.
So you're improvising in a way.
Right. Well, people who tell you we do ad-lib on stage, somewhat. But mostly we rehearse to make it look like we're doing it for the first time. But, we will throw in stuff, but usually we work very hard.
You picked your audience, who was your audience in Charleston?
Well, we work very hard to make it look very easy. So the audience there, it wasn't, it was mostly like business people and scientists, sort of high level, nationally recognized, and families. So that means clean, but I'm a clean comic anyway. Very boring.
Not a lot of blue language.
No. So I'm really not meant for clubs right now. And also, who wants to hear your mother talking in a club? They're single, dating in their 20s.
Yeah. So there you are in Charleston.
But my boys say, Mom, everybody has a mother. So actually, but when I did Last Comic Standing, I did my teenage boys, all stuff about them, because that was who the audience was.
But in Charleston, you were not.
But in Charleston, so as we do the song parodies in the middle, we did a song about cable TV. And I said how I love this show, 24. I don't know if you ever watched it with Kiefer Sutherland. Oh, well, they had this geeky girl as a star, and so I identified with her. And I said, I think she should be married to Jack, but she's married to Morris, but what if something would happen to Morris? And there were just crickets. You could have driven a truck through the silence.
Oh, gee.
And then I looked out at the audience. You have two choices then as a comedian. You can barrel on through, pretend it didn't happen, or you can acknowledge it. So I chose to acknowledge it, and I said, oh, I forget, you people read the Wall Street Journal and Scientific American. Okay. So after the show, and then I went on, and
Right.
you just pick yourself up, dust yourself off, charge ahead. And after the show, this man came up afterwards. He said, you know that show, that TV show you said you liked, 24? He said, I like 24. And I said, sir, I think it's you, your wife, my son, and me. He said, well, I'm the executive producer. And I was like, this.
That's a nice response.
And he said, you should be on my show. And I'm there like, that would be fantastic. He said, would you fly cross country for like one line? We'll make you a journalist or something. I said, I think I'd make a great CTU analyst, because I knew all the parts on the show, counterterrorism
unit.
unit.
About you, but Wellesley made you fearless. You weren't going to go for one line. You were going to be an analyst.
I know. And so my one line that I rehearsed going cross country was, how do you want it coded? Yes, ma'am. As my actor-writer son would say, Mom, only you could make it into 2 lines.
And President Suvaro's motorcade is delayed 5 minutes because of the new route put out in all agencies.
How do you want it coded?
Eyes only.
Yes, ma'am. And I had a trailer, and it was fantastic. There were like 3 televisions, and then they had craft service, and all these very fit young men who are on the show, also counterterrorism unit analysts. They're showing me where like the gum is and all the low-calorie stuff, and I'm there like, I'm taking the bagels. I'm just putting it all. And it was really, it was
So all of that,
quite all right.
you connected with the right person in Charleston.
Sometimes it's just that one person in the audience. You never know. So they were also, my son also says you have to be able to act to a trash can, to like no response, like you're great. Like I get better and better, but you laugh and I get better. And then you laugh a little more and I'll get better.
Interesting. Yeah.
So that's why, as Jerry Seinfeld says, comedy is not a monologue, it's a dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what you give to, then we get better. And this is what's actually hard about performing virtually now.
Yeah.
But my
Yeah, 'cause-
actor-writer son says you have to be able to act to a trash can. You are not a trash can over there.
Yeah.
But you just, and you have to keep your energy up.
Yeah. Well,
Because
when
that's
you're
your
acting
job.
maybe when you're acting virtually, you should have one of your sons in the room to laugh for you.
Well, do you know, a lot of us, if we have a chance to talk to the producer of the show, or if we are the producer of the show, we will let in a bunch of people up
Right,
top.
right.
Even if you just have 5,
Right.
it just
There's
fuels
some
us.
response. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can understand that.
It's really an interactive.
That would be helpful. Well, I think that's great. I think that, and I think
And
that's
also,
a
we're
good
doing
addition.
comedy sitting down now. That's different.
Right. Right.
You
Not
know, I
standing
mean,
up
look,
and
you have a
moving
different
around.
energy. You
Right.
know.
Oh, absolutely.
I probably went out of frame, but anyway.
Absolutely.
But that's okay. I can be funny from here up, I hope.
So tell me about 7 times fall down, 8 times get up.
Well,
It's
it's
a
something I
Japanese-
really love about the Japanese.
It's a
the
Japanese saying?
persistence. They never give up. Never say die. What is it? Winston Churchill says the same thing. Never, 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 never give up. You know?
And have you applied that? Did you find you needed to apply that either in comedy or?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Well, what I did love about Wellesley was the secret sauce. There is, I think I have I have boatloads of self-confidence, maybe unwarranted, but I think that's from. It's like in the real world now. I'm like, give it your best shot, and also in comedy, it's very helpful to have some self-confidence and just. I guess what I really like is I'm the youngest of 4. So nobody ever listened to me, and now I get on stage. Oh, by the way, my family used to pay me not to talk. We would go on a long ride down to the Cape, and they'd say, Janie, we'll give you a dime if you don't talk the whole way, and we'll give you a quarter if you can do the round trip. And I never got the quarter. I got a fair number of dimes.
You should have been saying, give me a dime every 10 miles.
Yeah.
Or,
Well, I should have had you negotiating
yeah,
for
I
me,
think so. I
Georgia.
think so.
Clearly,
Give me
that
a dime
was
the whole way. My goodness, that's a bargain. even back then, whatever that was, it's got to be a bargain.
But what's sort of, I say I have self-confidence, and yet I can be kind of shy, but when you put me on the stage, I will take charge.
So do you think there's anything we can take away from having a sense of humor or thinking about humorous things, A, as we get older, and
Yeah.
B, as we get older and face this horrible pandemic
Yeah.
and the risks to our health and our
Right.
life?
I give a lecture that I really enjoy giving. I entertain a lot at Canyon Ranch in Western Mass, the health spa. and I have a lecture I love to give there called How to Get to Happy. And I just quote from the Mayo Clinic. They say it really boosts your immune system, gets the endorphins going. I know I feel like $1 million after I've done a show, and I always say half of my pay in my show is to listen to my fellow comedians. It's quite a great tribe. We're a great community. We know a lot of each other. I was just in the Burbank Comedy Festival this week. That was a lot of fun. What's great is with the pandemic, we can do the West Coast now. The
So
drawback
you're doing
is
this virtually.
yes,
It's Zoom.
yes, it's a whole new, arena for us. And so now I'm getting to know the West Coast comics. The negative is their 7 o'clock show is our 10 o'clock. So I have gone on at 11:15. Just have a little Diet Coke and
Keep going.
rev up, and I'm wrecked the next
How
day.
do you actually get to happy then? I mean, how do you? Is it a matter of attitude and thinking yourself? Suppose you're naturally a kind of a morose person. I mean, I can't think like that. I'm not naturally
Well, you are.
morose, but-
You're not. I would just surround yourself with positive people. I think there are people who are naturally glass half full, half empty, and I would watch more comedy. But I think it's really a mindset. I believe I was in the mountains once of Wyoming on Knowles, National Outdoor Leadership School. I wasn't enjoying it, and the leader said to me, well, you have a choice. You can choose whether to enjoy your life or not. And that just stuck with me the rest of my life. And also, my dad sadly died when I was 15. And so I learned right then, life is short. So why not be positive? Also, my role in the family we had, I think you'll find with most comedians, if you end up interviewing a lot of comedians, is most of us have a great pain somewhere in the background. And, you just, my role I'm the youngest of 4, was always, I know that's happening over there, but look over here. Or
It's taking the distraction, taking away from the sadder things of life by just saying, here we are.
right. It's, you have a choice. You choose.
Here
You
we
know?
are now in life, and this is...
And make the best of
yeah.
it. I mean, I don't want to be in this pandemic, but I got some material out of it. Like when the whole hoarding thing started.
How much toilet paper did you have at home?
Well, it was the toilet paper. I was thinking I didn't judge these people because God knows I have toilet paper left over from 9/11. And I said to my son, I said, I think Mommy's kind of just like a junior hoarder. And he said, Mommy, you are so not a junior hoarder. You're an early onset hoarder. So it just made me happy that he got the funny gene.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, a lot of people have the funny gene, and it's great to let it out right now. I think it can make you even successful, say, as a senator. Al Franken, you can diffuse tense situations.
Yes.
With humor.
So I think let's remember that. That's the important, it's going to be the
Also,
takeaway.
I'm good at a cocktail party.
So the good things to take away is that Jane is good at a cocktail party. Remember that you have a choice, and the choice could be to be half full, if you possibly can. Remember, you have a choice. Well, that's been wonderful. Thank you for this, Jane. I really appreciate it.
my
I think it's
pleasure.
been fun, and I think it's helpful.
Okay.
And I will like to stay in touch so that you can keep me on the positive side of the choice.
Oh, you bet. And I love logical people like you. I'm a little scattered and ADD, so I love the people who can think straight.
Well, I hope so. Thank you so much again.
Pleasure.
Thanks very much. This is Georgia Raisman, and I look forward to seeing you on the next Monday Scoop. Are there topics you'd like to know more about? Email me at mondayscoop@gmail.com. See you next Monday.